Hello, good evening. Thousands fell silent across the region to mark Armistice Day. It's 99 years since the First World War, and at one church in Haveringland near Norwich, there was an especially poignant service. It was a very special service of remembrance for Armistice Day here in the Norfolk countryside. Among those paying tribute at Haveringland Parish Church were relatives of those who died in service, having flown out of RAF Swannington. The church stands on the edge of the former airfield.
I first saw St Peter's Church quite a few years ago when I was out walking with my father. We both saw the church sitting on its own, surrounded by fields, and instantly wondered what it was like inside. The following weekend, we went to a service there, and that began our association with the church.
St Peter's Church has been at the centre of Haveringland for many years. It is the only public building in the area, but unfortunately for most of the time it isn't open to the public. So our ambition is to try and create a community hub here, alongside its role as a religious centre, providing for important religious services in the year, what we call a festival church. We've been talking with local people about our plans and ideas over the last couple of years, and I think it's fair to say that there's been growing support for these. And local people have also chipped in their own thoughts and ideas about the sorts of things they'd like to see put on here at the church. We're especially conscious of the growing elderly population locally and the risk of social isolation, so providing a place for people to informally socialise and meet up is a very important objective for us.
Haveringland Church is known locally as the Church in the Fields because it's not in a town or a village. It stands alone under Norfolk skies, an oasis of silence surrounded by rescued horses grazing in fields. I like to sit in the churchyard and watch the sunset. It's a great place to find silence. We plan to have the church open every day to provide a sanctuary in all weathers from the busyness of modern life.
Our church has a rich history. It's a story of almost 1,000 years, written and built in stone, shaped by villagers past and present. Wandering through the churchyard, it's easy to appreciate the peaceful rural setting. Going inside our church, you step back into early Victorian times. The craftsmanship is impressive. The finely carved oak, red velvet cloths embroidered with gold thread, a magical myriad of colours projected through the stained glass, all add to the atmosphere.
During my association with the church, I can remember services on a weekly basis, which changed to fortnightly, then once a month, and then only 6 throughout the warm summer months. Sadly, the congregation depleted, and it seemed as though the church would be facing an uncertain fate. I'm now so pleased that we are facing a new future, because St Peter's is such an integral part of the landscape, and all those who have gone before.
On summer evenings, we have shared silences inspired by the quarterly silences at Norwich Cathedral. Some of us choose to stay in the church, but most of us sit in chairs or on picnic blankets placed around the churchyard, which is transformed into a wildlife conservation area during the summer months. We are experimenting with different forms and frames for silence at Haveringland Church, starting with a sung compline by candlelight, which includes 20 minutes of silence. When we have suitable facilities, we plan to offer silent day retreats so that people from further afield can come to savour the silence of this special place.
I think there's a range of other needs or interests that we can meet here, what you might call communities of interest. The sorts of things I'm talking about are arts and crafts, music, heritage-related events, talks about this and that, and so on. These are all things that I think can help improve the viability of the church going into the future.
Sadly, all is not well. There are damp patches on the walls, drips on the pews, water damage to the wooden floor, falling masonry, a growing number of holes in the beautiful stained glass. Nevertheless, we are proud of our church, the only community building in the village. We dream of preserving it for future generations to enjoy, just as much as we do. We dream of a fully accessible, weatherproof building, a festival church, a true community hub where we can celebrate shared interests with others, a legacy for the future.
Our ambition really is to try and create a community hub here that can meet a variety of needs efficiently, effectively and comfortably. It's all about building the future for the local community, at the same time repairing the past, not only an important historic building, but also conserving for future generations some fascinating and important stories about local life.
I met a very sprightly 94-year-old recently who told me that her husband farmed the land around the church during the 60s. She told me how pleased she was to come to our remembrance service and then visit her husband's grave in the churchyard. She said it was difficult for her to get there now, but how lovely it was to see the care being taken of the church and its surrounds.